I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the clerk's had a little incident that she's dealing with, so we're going to do our best here this evening. If we could go around the room for a roll call, starting with Councilwoman Donovan.
Councilman Gary Donovan, Council at Large, present.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Council at Large, here.
Councilman Ron Quagliani, Council at Large, present.
Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite, 2nd District, present.
Councilwoman Akbarali is absent at this point.
Councilman Mitchell Galagnano, 4th District, is here.
Councilwoman Robin Watt Hamilton, 5th District, here.
Councilwoman Catherine Tucker, 7th District, present.
Councilman Victor Boris, 8th District, present.
Councilman Robert Bruno, 9th District, present.
Councilman Stephen Johnstone, 10th District, present.
Councilman, 6th District, Peter Massaro, Chairman, present.
Thank you, everybody. We're here. We have a quorum. So tonight is deliberations, our last night of deliberations. We need to pass some form of a budget by midnight tonight. I hope we could do that much sooner than that. Mr. Taylor, is there anything that you'd like to speak on in general before we get started, or as issues come up, you could address them at that time?
Whatever you prefer. I did leave a couple of handouts if you want me to.
All right, so Mr. Taylor's dropped off the actions that we've taken last night.
Just, these are the actions we're taking last night, and these are the changes I made to my version of the budget on my computer. And I just highlighted a couple of things. And on the first one, you know, the capital non-recurring is not the general fund, but it does play into the general fund. The second thing I noted was, and not suggesting anything here, but if you remember, planning and development did express the desire for an additional headcount that was not in the budget. So that's something that you could consider. Thirdly, the highlight, you can see Lori Lopez is that role. And if it would please you all, there are 2 open roles. I could reduce those some way with the funds that you asked to reduce from the salary budget for that department. I did want to also let you know that, you know, Lori came up from the building department, and we didn't really talk about, you know, what they were going to do for next year. I don't know whether they've hired somebody or not. I just don't know the answer to that. So I have an open question on that. I don't really be able to do anything about it tonight, but that's obviously up to you. Then just a little highlight there that, you know, we just, the org was incorrect on a couple of the accounts for the fire department. And so I just pointed it out so that you get a clear picture. The second document that I gave you is just a few things. I had provided a detail of investment income that I looked at again, and we are making a little bit more money. I sharpened my pencil, went from 3% to 4% on our interest rate, which I think is achievable, and possibly that I might be able to beat it next year. So I'm proposing that we could increase the investment revenue, and I just provided a couple of ideas as to, you know, where you might consider parking that money to, you know, to make it flat to the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'd like a majority caucus, please. You all want pizza. are back. It's 6:58, the caucus. And I think first order of business is, Mr. Taylor, if you come to the podium, we want to review some of the actions that were taken last night. So I think the first action that we'd like to review is the motion regarding the separation pay and the discussion that we had last night. So if you could just inform the council of the things that have changed since your comments to us last night.
Yeah, I believe Mr. Bruno during council said he was gonna go talk to Chief Perno and kind of review what that account had been used for in the past. Whereas my comments were made based on my experience and my understanding of how it should be working here, it's not exactly how it was working here. Unfortunately, when people were separated, during 22 and 23 so far, very little was hitting. I'm not sure even how it hit separation pay, to tell you the truth, but that was just being charged to wages. Very important that we do have a place to put this, and that's where it needs to be. We do not have the accruals like I was talking about last night, and I was handed today documentation of separation wages asking for a transfer, not a transfer, but a reclassification from wages to separation pay for both years 22 and 23. Not sure if I can book the 22, but for 23, it's in excess of $300,000. So, and for 22, it would have been $226,000. I'm not sure about the cutoff, so it's somewhere in that neighborhood. So it would seem, yeah, it would seem to me that we do need this budget, and we will be making those entries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bruno?
Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion, please, to increase line item 131-00030-518-000, West Haven PD, page 67, separation pay by a sum of $200,000.
Second.
that.
Okay, Councilman Bruno's made the motion to reinstate the $200,000 for the West Haven Police separation pay, seconded by Councilwoman Garthwaite and Councilman Johnstone. Is there any discussion on that motion?
I have something.
Councilman
I just wanna
Ectorelli?
stress that it's very important in the future that we make sure we have these discussions with the chief before making any decisions regarding moving any kind of money like that. So I just wanted to make sure that we stress the importance of that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Ectorelli. Any other
Chairman.
discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries. Okay, Mr. Taylor, the next one I'd like to revisit with you is the reduction in the line item for public works, regular wages, property maintenance, and zoning enforcement. That motion was made last night to remove $36,450. So my understanding is there's an incumbent, there's a person sitting in that seat doing that job, which the council was under the impression last night that this was a new position. So could you kind of give us some detail on
Yes,
this?
sure. The confusion is that Lori is being charged to the building department, where there is also a planning and zoning enforcement person. She was working in the building department, and they transferred her upstairs so that she could be focusing on, as you might remember, the commissioner saying things outside the front door of the residences or buildings. She continues to be charged to the building department. We would like to have her continue to be transferred into Public Works and continue to work here and be charged there. I don't know what to say about the building department. I haven't been able to get a hold of Mr. Gladwin to understand what's going on down there. So I can't tell you what I would recommend for that department. However, we do need this here. Now, there were two other positions that were open at this time.
Is there any discussion, questions for for Mr. Taylor regarding that. Councilman Boris?
So, are they definitely gonna try to see if they can put that budget in the public works, or keep her,
Passing this budget would put the budget into public works.
and they'll pay her through public works?
Absolutely.
Thank you. No more questions, Mr. Chairman.
So, let's see, Kathy Coniff was here for the budget deliberations for the Planning and Development Department. And I understand that there's no commissioner. Frank wasn't able to make it, so if we're transferring that position from that department to Public Works, wouldn't the money follow it?
One would expect, however, my understanding is that their desire, or I don't know if they filled it, so I just don't know. Their desire is to have a person there to do inspections on the inside of the properties. Could, well,
Councilman Bruno?
Mr. Taylor, could you, 'cause I'm still confused by this from last night. Can you tell us, when you say on the inside of the properties, right? So we have two blight officers, right? What do you mean on the inside there?
that would be within the building within the structure. So the
Itself?
the person that works in the building department would be inspecting the inside of the buildings.
Okay,
I would imagine the siding of the building would include that.
Okay.
However, anything outside the front door, as Commissioner explained, would be DPW.
okay. So if Lori is in Public Works now, as Mr. Chairman stated, right, so that her salary should follow from building to one with.
As of today, her salary is being charged to building. There was no transfer made other than to move her office.
Nothing else?
Councilwoman Tucker?
Has the job description been changed?
I couldn't tell you that. Not mine.
Well, I'm just curious, like how someone moves a position, like what the,
So
How
she's
do you
in
move-
the same position, she's just in a different area of the building,
With different supervision.
with different supervision, right? These are fair questions, I just don't know the answers.
so the work that she's doing is not for the building department right now, it's for public works. But public works,
I'm really sorry, but I can't,
I'm asking.
I'm assuming, yes. I don't know if she's going inside the houses and outside the houses, I really don't know.
Well, I'm just asking because I'm just curious about where she's being paid from versus where she's doing the work that she's being paid to do. And the change was made and it didn't seem like anyone knew that.
Well, I
That
didn't know
changed?
and you didn't know, that's a fair point, yes. These things would normally be handled through personnel. Job descriptions are, you know,
A part of personnel.
logged there,
Right.
and transfers would occur through that department.
Right, but to ask a city council to decide about
Yeah.
a budget and a transfer of budget in
Mhm.
this situation, I think these are fair questions to ask.
Oh, yeah,
to
they are. I
understand
just
what
hear-
we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing.
Unfortunately, I agree totally with you. I just don't have those answers.
I'm good.
Councilwoman O'Connor?
No, that was, my question was about the inside, outside, and we don't know, so I'm
Okay.
not gonna belabor.
All I could do is repeat what, Mr. McCarthy said.
And listen, I understand the concept,
Yeah.
right? The assistant building officials are licensed to deal with structural issues, typically on or around or in the building, where the blight officer is usually for blight issues, outside the building, front lawn, curb, that type of thing, dumping, whatever it may be. So I understand the principle. I just, if the building department's paying for that asset now, and they're sitting in the public works department, and they've been doing for that for how long now?
I don't know.
Months?
I don't know when she moved up there. When I first got here, I really didn't venture down there to know whether or not there was a person in that office. But She's been there for quite some time.
Well, nobody's pushing back saying, hey,
Yeah.
you're up here, you're doing the same work you were doing, but you're in a different location, and we're still paying you. So no one's, I mean, we had planning and zoning here, that wasn't, that, you know, that
Yeah.
didn't appear to be an issue at that point, but.
Right.
Councilman Boris?
One last question. This is a union position?
I believe it is. I
Yeah.
can go
Yeah.
check that.
It is.
So
If you'd
my
like.
question is, if this is a union position and she moved, shouldn't that have been posted?
I would think so, but I think.
Was it posted?
I think she's probably doing the same position. And once again, I don't work in personnel. It probably happened before I even got here and was employed by the city, so I really don't know the answer to that question.
But it wasn't posted.
I don't know the answer to
Okay.
that question.
Thank you.
I don't know that she changed jobs.
Councilwoman Tucker, and then Councilman Bruno.
Has there, I would imagine that if there's a whole body missing from the building department, that they're feeling that,
I,
the weight of that?
I think so.
Can I ask my question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
That they're feeling the weight of the missing person from that office, so there must be work that's not getting done, I guess. Has there been any request for a replacement of that person to that department?
Again, I can't speak for what's going on between Frank Gladwin and the personnel department. I'm not aware of that.
Thank you.
Councilman Bruno?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask if we can call for a recess. I'd like to get these answers from Public Works Commissioner and stop asking our finance director who doesn't have the answers. I think we need the answers if that's what we're all looking for, and in order to do so, I'd like to ask we call for a recess.
It's your prerogative, Mr. Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're in recess for 5 minutes. We're out of recess at 7:15. Councilman Bruno, any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, just to get a little bit of clarification on this, she is in the Public Works office with Commissioner McCarthy. She is our public space inspector. That means from the front door out. She handles all the blight. They did not need union permission to move her within, and that the full salary should be coming out of the Public Works salary.
Unfortunately, that is not what's happening today, but it's
Correct,
it's
so
correctable.
that's maybe what, something we're gonna have to
Yeah.
correct. The folks that are in the building department, Lloyd and who else is down there?
Frank.
Frank, I'm sorry.
They keep going.
Right, they're doing inspections from the door in, if you would, and they're handling them inspections throughout that department, the building department itself. They're doing those on their own. Mrs. Lopez is upstairs with Tom, and she's handling blight. So that helps me with some clarification. I'm not telling you it's perfect, but now we don't have to ask finance director questions he can't answer.
Well, we probably still will as we go forward,
Correct.
Mr. Bruno, but,
Did-
so,
I understand.
Do you know if they're looking to replace Lori downstairs?
No.
That's the piece I don't know either.
so on your list, Mr. Taylor, of open or new positions, there is an assistant building official that's listed as open, and a property maintenance zone enforcement officer listed as open for the building department. I don't know if that's,
Yep. That's what I have.
I thought there were two assistant building officials that are open, but I'll go with the one, at this point.
Wouldn't one of them be Lloyd?
I think
Oh, they're
there's-
looking for
I-
three.
I have to look at the detail as to how many they're supposed to be. I think there's supposed to be three plus the building official.
The planning,
Yeah.
47.
There's five on their
There's
app.
some pages that I just opened.
47.
I may have missed that one.
So on page 47, there's one building official, 5 assistant building officials, which I think 2 are vacant. One property maintenance officer, which is the individual that we've been discussing, or the position that we've been discussing, and then the building department secretary. So, Mr. Taylor, I'm apt to take that money and change the department code if the asset is, and I hate to call that, it's very, if the position is still doing the same work that they were doing, and they're sitting in a different location under a different umbrella, managed by a different team, it makes sense that the money travels with them, in my mind.
I would.
Any other commentary regarding this particular amount from last night?
I think I'm just trying to word this correctly. So, she's in this position is in the Public Works right now. So, it'll be a new job because it is moved upstairs. So there'll be the new job request.
No,
No,
just a new position, new territory.
it's the same job, different supervision.
Oh, okay, all right, so that's that part, okay. And with that, the other position now would become vacant, correct? In the building department.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm kinda,
Well,
can I
this is-
respond?
Yeah, absolutely,
is it a
because I'm
question?
confused. No, I
The
think it's
question
more
is, I don't know,
confusion.
I think it's open for interpretation. I mean, my interpretation is we have one building, we have one property maintenance zone enforcement officer, We have one that's authorized from the city, and that position has moved from the building department to the public works department. So, in my mind, it's a transfer of a position from one department to another. Planning and zoning wasn't here and told us that they're looking for a new position for a property maintenance and zoning enforcement officer, and honestly, if the decision's been made to move that job and the job description to another department, if they want a second one, then that second one should work with the first one in that same department. They shouldn't be competing in different departments with different supervision, in my opinion. So we could determine whether we think that the move is appropriate or not appropriate, but it really isn't up to us, right?
No,
So
right.
I think we need to make a decision as a council and a funding source. Do we put that money back in public works and remove it from the building department? I think that's probably the issue for this table.
That's what I would do. I just take it out of one and put it in the other one. Decrease the building department by her salary and increase it in the public works department.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Well, he's got it already written.
Oh, is that what you're doing?
Yeah, that's what
All
I,
right,
that's
so
what I was
the
trying
floor-
to figure
floor-
this out.
If there's any
So,
other discuss, we'll have more discussion on it, but.
Yeah, but I just, correct me with this. So I wanna increase line item 1400, I'd like to make a motion to increase line item 14000010-51000 to, increase it to $36,450. It's on page 73, to public works, regular wages, property management, and zoning enforcement.
And
And,
Decrease.
And decrease.
oh, same? Okay.
if that's what you wanna do.
Yes, okay, and decrease, I didn't write that one down, but I will.
110.
Decrease,
Is it this?
that would be regular wages, correct?
Yep.
In
Planning and
build,
zoning?
no,
No?
in building. Page 49.
Sorry. All right, decrease. $119,000,1351000 regular wages to, give me a second, I gotta do this in my head. I'm not doing it in my head, sorry. 6, 8. So,
Is it okay to only put the amount of the decrease? You have to figure it
Yeah,
out.
if you wanna figure it out, that's fine.
I'll figure, if you tell me the amount of the decrease, I can act on that.
Okay.
well, I'm just deciding to decrease the whole thing or decrease half and start that job in January.
Can't, she's already.
She's already in the job.
She's already in the
No,
job.
the building one.
So we
I'm
have,
talking.
as a suggestion,
Um,
we talked about 3 open positions down there. We decrease the budget. Does it really matter which position gets hired after the other to this audit? I mean, you're reducing the budget and you're allowing for the fact that if we don't fill positions immediately, at least I imagine these all I'm guessing, these all positions are all posted, they're all having advertising, we're trying to fill them because they're in this year's budget. So, seeing as they're not filled, does it matter which position is filled last?
Well, I think what Councilman Donovan's trying to determine in his motion is whether he leaves half the funding to empower the planning and zoning department to hire a property maintenance and zoning enforcement officer, or he zeroes it out because that asset again has moved out of that department and into the public works.
Confusion.
So,
Sorry.
No, I guess I'll catch flack, but I'll decrease that. By $34,134, which is half of those wages.
so Councilman Donovan's motion is to reinstate the I got it here.
I'm ready to roll. I apologize.
Don't you apologize, we're all kind of working through it. Councilman Donovan's motion is to reinstate $36,450 to the Public Works regular wage budget for the property maintenance and zoning enforcement officer, and to decrease by the number that he indicated in the, what is it?
119,
No, what,
Oh,
the
sorry.
dollar amount.
the decrease, 34,134.
To decrease that amount in the planning and development regular wage account for the property maintenance and zone enforcement officer.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded it? Councilwoman Hamilton, Councilwoman O'Connor. Okay, discussion? Councilwoman Tucker.
I guess what I'm struggling with is, you have this department that had 3 positions in it. One of the positions was moved, and the one that was moved is now, we're asking for a replacement to be provided to that department. And I'm just,
In that motion, that's correct.
right. Because the position was taken from that department and moved to another department.
Yeah, I don't know the why, but the Councilman Donovan's motion is to half fund that position. So again, so you would have potentially 2 individuals doing the same job in 2 different departments.
Okay.
Any other, Councilman Donovan?
Just ahead on my, motion, 34,134 would be starting from January 1, 2024.
Okay. Councilman Galignano?
I am super confused.
It took
Okay.
me so long.
So we're putting this 36,450 back in, correct?
Well, the motion is to put that back in and fully fund that position in Public Works because there's an incumbent in that position.
Correct.
Right, and the other half of Councilman Donovan's motion was to take, instead of zeroing out the property maintenance zone enforcement officer in planning and development, half funding it to allow them to hire in January and in that position there.
Same position in a different department.
That's the motion.
So we're gonna have 2 blight officers. One's gonna be working for Public Works, one's gonna work for the building department. Until the building department doesn't like that person and says, I wanna ship it back to Public Works. That's
That's
hearsay.
rhetorical, I know that,
That's hearsay,
your
right?
options are yay, nay, or amend.
So I would like to amend that motion,
Okay.
and I would like to zero that line on planning and development and not have a second person.
Okay, so, Councilman Galignano has submitted an amendment to, again, increase the same dollar amount to Public Works to fully fund and to zero out the property maintenance zone enforcement officer line in regular wages and planning and development. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Chairman Massaro.
You need one of these papers?
I do
Is
not.
there any discussion on the amendment? Councilwoman O'Connor.
So what you're saying then is from going forward, all blight officers will be supervised by Public Works?
I'm not saying that, I think the city says that, but.
But is that what the
that-
motion
so-
is in?
I would say that would be correct, because why would you have 2 people doing the same job supervised by 2 different people? That
That's
is
what-
my understanding. In my business, I wouldn't do that, so I wouldn't expect the city to do that either. So, I mean, if you wanna make an amendment to that and put that money under Public Works, I would be okay with that.
So I can
Maybe.
handle an emotion and an amendment, I can't handle an amendment to an amendment. So we would start all over
No, I'm
at that point.
I was just throwing it out there, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I don't believe that the same job should be supervised by 2 different supervisors.
All right, so we're under discussion on Councilman Galignano's amendment. Councilwoman Tucker.
That's the point I think I was trying to make when I initially made the statement the first time, is because it doesn't make sense to me. If there's an issue with the department that position was moved out of, rewarding that department with another position is not the approach that I think should be taken. I think there should be there should be an honest conversation about what's happening in that department and corrective action made. No more mismanagement. This is what we need to clean out. We have to sweep the dirt out of here. Like, that cannot continue to go on. And to move a position into another department because we don't wanna manage the department that the position is coming out of is unacceptable. So, I say that if that's the case, then take it out of that department, but I strongly suggest, however it has to happen, that somebody deals with that department. Because you can't keep funding that, because the next person that they don't like, this will happen again. If that's in fact what happened.
Councilman Boris?
I agree with Councilwoman Tucker. I think that what's gonna happen is gonna cause a division and confusion with both jobs. You got two people in two different departments that's doing basically the same job, and all it does is just cause confusion, and I don't agree. I think that shouldn't be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment? I don't see any more discussion, so the amendment is again fully funding, restoring the funds to the property maintenance zoning officer in public works and zeroing out the line in planning and zoning for that same position. Seeing no further discussion, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Abstention by Councilman Boris. That motion, the amendment passes by majority. Now back to the regular motion is the motion by Councilman Donovan now as amended. Again, restoring the money to the property maintenance line in the public works budget for $36,450 and zeroing out the property maintenance zoning enforcement officer, which is $68,268 from the planning and development budget. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions?
I will abstain.
Councilman Boris, and that motion carries by majority. Well, that's the cleanup, I guess, from last night. The floor is open. Councilman Johnstone?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to make a motion. The line item is found on page 84 under Highway Park Maintenance. Line item 1470401052160 under street lighting. I'd like to make a motion to decrease that line item by $470,000.
Second.
Councilman Johnstone's motion is to, on page 84, under highways and parks, street lighting is to reduce the line item recommended $1,400,000 to what, Councilman Johnstone?
Reducing it, we're subtracting $470,000, and that would leave in the line item $800,000. I'm sorry, no,
930.
930, thank you. My mistake, 930.
Is there a second? Oh, you got Councilwoman Garthwaite already seconded, I'm sorry. Any discussion on the motion? Let's take the chairman first.
I would love to see that, but UI bill has been increasing tremendously all over the state, all over the country, up north, south. I mean, that's kind of scary. When we don't have our solar system started yet that we approved, to cut some of this down, and right now to cut that line item, I think that'd be very scary. Personally, I think we'd be overdrawn. That's it.
Councilman Bruno?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did a little poking around on that line item, and all the lights are converted to LEDs, and to Chairman Massaro, that's the increase cost of electricity. And even with the solar panels that were involved in, that's still the projected cost of where we could possibly be. So I would be concerned about that account also becoming overdrawn if we don't watch what we're gonna do with that due to the increased cost of power. Nothing else.
Councilman Donovan and then Councilman Galignano.
Yeah, how'd you come up with that number?
So, if I may,
Yeah.
number one is, to my understanding, don't we have a locked rate?
I didn't think so.
Number two, then why are we projecting expenses to 720 to, and I understand costs are going up, but some costs are starting to go down because the companies are competing, which that happens everywhere. So if we're projecting 720,000, are you trying to tell me, and this is just open discussion here and my personal thoughts on this, but are you trying to tell me that it's safe to say we're gonna double that and not question it at all? That's just my personal stance.
Understand it, but I can only speak personally. My UI bill was X amount of dollars. It nearly doubled in just that 1 month when it took over. So the UI part has gone up that much, and I'm just speaking for me personally. I just don't. If we cut that down that much, or we cut it down at all, we're gonna be stuck if that bill comes in, and it's gonna be a lot higher. I know the projected expenses was that, but that's only till
I understand
this
that.
month, or next month. And then after that, I think that we're gonna be hurting if we take out too much. But, thank you.
Councilman Galganato.
Mr. Taylor, I'm gonna go back to you, cause the expenses up to January 354, and I don't know who gave this projection of 720, but is that correct?
That was my projection in January. I have not re-examined that projection.
Because I asked that same question about the police thing last night, and we were off last night, so my guess is, I don't know if we'd be off again, but that 720 then to 1.4 million looks definitely odd, right? So that's why people say, wow, how could our electricity double in 1 year? And I get where Councilman Johnstone's coming from. Why would it double? So my concern would be the projection. Now I see the 354 is about half the year, and that's where you might have gotten your projection from, but
A slight increase.
so it's concerning.
When, as you might remember, I asked the purchasing agent to work up some projections on our electricity, all of our utilities. Let me get up here. And he did produce those. Unfortunately, I did not have time to dig into the details behind those. I didn't ask him on it, I was sure, because this, frankly, this increase for this particular line item is much higher on a percentage basis than the other utility increases in this budget. We have electric costs in other departments. The highway and parks has the streetlights, makes sense. So, this particular increase I thought was excessive, but he's, stood behind it on multiple questionings. So, I'm taking his word for it. I'm taking that he understands our contracts and how far they go out, when we will go to bid, and these were all things that we talked about. So, I'm trusting on this. At the same time, I think it's high.
So you think it's high?
My gut says it's high, but his numbers say it isn't. And that's a tough place for a finance guy to be.
Councilman Boris?
Hi there, Mr. Taylor. Just a question. I understand that with the growing rate of everybody using solars, right? The UI is losing money because everybody's going to solars. My question is, have we seen an increase on the what we pay for electricity with the city? Is it growing fast? Or?
We are locked in to previous points.
Okay.
So we would not see an increase every, it would be a contractual increase when we see it. We've not had an increase this year.
So, but that number, you think that's accurate? I mean,
I think we're gonna hit somewhere between 720, 750, something like that this year, but I haven't updated my projection since January. If it goes higher than that, it's still a 100% increase, roughly. Which again, I asked him a couple times, and I really haven't had time to look into it further.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
So, the detail, so if I asked you to go back and look at the detail and look, where we are to date as of the last bill, which I don't know what the last bill is, your January projection could be you only had July, August, and September's bills, and you didn't pay, October, November, December. So, I mean, I think that's a data point.
I know I can go back to my office and grab the March statements that we shared before. We can get a look at that and maybe get an update if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at the March statements compared to when the electricity go up? January, February? So take the March statement, compare it to the October statement, and see if it's 100%, right?
That would take a lot of work, but because they're filed in lots of
Yeah.
places. So that would be something I could, what I'm saying is I could go back and get our financial reports for March.
Mm-hmm.
We should have theoretically 2 more months of actuals. In the scenario you just said, it could be 3 or 4 more months of actuals. But I don't think we're that far behind on our payments yet.
Yeah, so, I offer that, it's, there's a motion on the floor, Councilman Johnstone's motion. Either we could continue, or we could park it until we get that data from you, Mr. Taylor.
It
So
wouldn't take
it's-
but a few minutes if you'd like me to run it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I would love to.
You have any discussion?
Um,
Yep, I'm sorry,
I
Councilwoman
know-
O'Connor.
I know when,
You making me up?
when they took a first look at the budget, a couple of MARB members did notice this, and they were questioning it also. So it is something that is in their radar, that they wondered why if we were in a locked position with the rates that we pay, why did it double?
Any other discussion? Councilwoman Epperelli?
I think it would be a mistake right now reducing that number since electricity is on the rise. And also, we are using the LEDs and the solar, as Councilman Bruno had stated. And also, just have a quick question for Victor. Where did you get your data from about the UI costs?
So I have solar, and I noticed a difference in a lot of people that don't next to me, because I try to help people get solar, and I see their electrical bills go higher and higher. And a friend of mine that works at the UI, she's telling me that that's because a lot of people are getting into solar, and UI has to make their money. I don't know how much that's true, but that was just something that I was told.
Mr. Taylor, whenever you're ready. I'm sorry, did you have a comment?
I got something.
Chairman?
I got solar in my house, and when the UI bill went up, I used to pay $12 a month. Now I'm paying $93.
Yeah, solar?
Yeah.
That depends on the sun also, yeah.
It's up there.
Yeah, it goes up.
Outside or something.
It's outside.
You're on the green.
Yeah, it's outside. It is really annoying.
Sounds like someone screaming.
You gotta leave these on. What do you call this desk?
Yeah, that's very good, you should do all of them.
No.
You're the union guy. You know
Andrew,
that, right?
you cutting it?
We are still in, just All set? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
Recess is over. So I did a couple of things. Went back to my office, I grabbed the last set of reports. Unfortunately, I expected that would be March, but we haven't issued March reports yet because it's time to issue March reports. So, well, it should be, but we haven't issued them for some reason. So I went and ran what it is today. And right now, we've spent $529,000 versus the $760,000 budget. And I looked in the history, and you know, because you made the point that we could be behind, and there are payments for every month. So I feel like we're on it so far as making the payments here. So if we were to, you know, look, we've got $230,000 left in the budget, which, you know, we might come in under budget still. I mean, that's more than the average payment for 2 months. So, and it did appear that the payments were relatively solidly the same amounts every month through the year. So that would speak to our rates being locked in for this year. Not sure if that helps.
Well,
But at least it's information. yeah,
Could I
we
ask
can
you to
use.
comment on Councilman Johnstone's motion to reduce that line to 930,000 from 1,400,000 as the finance director? Your thoughts?
I still think that that's a heck of an increase. It makes me believe that Mr. Spryer expects us to bid this out, and if I do remember, he did say a date when we were gonna have to, you know, I guess you can't really bid it out, can you, that much, but we were gonna lock in a new rate for our new contract period, that it was imminent. It's hard for me to swallow a pill that large, you know, personally, and I would hope that we could do better than that in any kind of negotiation. I don't know that cutting the budget helps us do better in the negotiation, but it sure does provide some inspiration. So, yeah, I mean, you know, that, again, that's the guy who's gonna go buy our energy said that that's what it's gonna cost. Could he be wrong by a couple $100,000 either way, or $300,000 for that matter? With a number this large, it's possible. I'm not gonna give you a good warm and fuzzy feeling here, I hope.
Because our challenge around this table is to, tonight, pass a balanced budget. But when we say balanced, at least when I say balanced, I mean that we've appropriately funded the line items and the departmental budgets in order to provide the necessary services and not overfund them to unnecessarily tax the residents if we don't have to, right? So
Correct.
I know that one line item here and one line item there is not gonna make any bit of difference, but there are line items like this that are significant, right? And so I think we all try to balance that, and we don't wanna cut things that are fantasy and then find ourselves back here and reinstating them or taking them out of contingency. So that's why I think we ask these questions, and we rely on your expertise, because that's what you do, right?
Yeah, and I believe I've given my opinions. There's
Yep.
another question I've gotten happy to hear.
Yeah. Is there any other discussion on Councilman Johnstone's motion? Okay, I don't see any. Again, the motion is to reduce the street lighting account from 1,400,000 to 930,000. Chairman, I know you're chomping at the bit. We could do a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Councilman Gary Donovan. Today.
I'm gonna say no.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor.
Yes.
Councilman Ron Quagliani.
Yes.
Councilwoman Melly Garfield.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sarah Acabel.
No.
Councilman Mitch Galliano.
No.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton.
No.
Councilwoman Kathy Tucker.
No.
Councilman Victor Boris.
No.
Councilman Robert Bruno.
No.
Councilman Steve Johnstone.
Yes.
And myself as a yes.
Okay, motion fails. All right, Mr. Taylor, next up is the sheet that you put in front of us, regarding the investment income and the budget and what you feel the actual, numbers may come in at due to rising interest rates and so on and so forth. So would you just quickly explain what your rationale is on that?
So, in the rush to prepare the budget initially, I didn't really dig down to the daily balances and calculate the interest rate, kind of watch the trend. I understood that we would be declining our total amount of funds on a daily basis, and I estimated the number that you see in your budget book. I had-
$653,000.
Yes, thank you. I had an opportunity to really go after what exactly would it be, what is my cash flow, and I think I provided that at one point, what the cash balances were. That file feeds another file, which will give me a monthly interest calculation, and obviously I can add 12 of those in a year. That file was giving me over $1 million at the 3% rate that I was projecting. We've been making 4% this year. Indications are that we can make 5. I've possibly on some of the money, and so I feel like a 4% rate for next year is very possible. I mean, any interest rate guess is a guess, but there are opportunities to invest funds in other ways. I've spoken with the treasurer, and he's also interested in how we might be able to maximize our investment income. But there are some other vehicles that would give us up in the 5% range today that we are not taking advantage of because we just need to work on our investment strategy together. But we are going to be speaking to somebody in the upcoming weeks about what they have to offer with our banks. With the current situations that we have, nobody knew.
So your recommendation is to take the mayor's recommended, I'm sorry, I'm on page 9. Use of money, investment income, mayor's recommended 653,000 is the recommended revenue number, and we could add 605,000 to that to make the number $1,258,000.
Yes.
Well, that's good news. Now, the second part of the recommendation is use that additional monies to add additional funding to general liability, workers' comp, and advance OPEB.
Yes.
So currently in the budget now, are those 3 line items funded to the MARB 5-year plan currently?
Yes, I believe they are. Although I would recommend, based on the results of our audit in 2021 and the recommendation of our auditor, that we would increase these. And I know, and I believe it's the right thing to do. I don't, it's obviously up to this body to decide, how we would like to budget that. These are merely recommendations on what one path that we might choose.
So if we're funding them to the plan, why couldn't we take that $605,000 and increase the investment income, and now there's $605,000 worth of dollars that the residents don't have to get taxed on?
Obviously you can. Not obviously, but you could do that. I do know that there is already pressure on us by our auditor, and by the governing body at the state, that we need to more aggressively fund the internal service funds, general liabilities, workers' comp. And we are really behind on the other other post-employment benefits as well. We did take that tack with the fire department changes last night, and I thought to offer a similar adjustment to the general fund.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with your recommendation. I want the community to understand that.
Absolutely.
You know, if we have $605,000 in additional revenue that we didn't anticipate, well, why isn't that translating into less of a mill rate increase? And I agree with the rationale, and obviously we want to submit a budget that's pretty crisp and that it hits all the points that the MARB speaks about, right? And some of those are obviously these three items here. So, but I wanted to raise the question and put it out there because those are some of the questions that I think we would get.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there are a lot of ways we could fund those things. Yeah,
Floor is open. Chairman Massaro?
Yeah, so I can make a motion to increase line item 110010-51000, page 4, the mayor's office, the mayor's salary, for $11,667 to start December 3rd, 2023. Page 34.
34. So Councilman Massaro has made a motion to increase the regular wages in the mayor's office on the mayor line by $11,667, and that raise would be effective December 3rd, 2023, raising the mayor's salary from $89,161 to $109,161. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Galignano. Is there any discussion? Councilwoman O'Connor?
I'm thinking of the future. I'm not thinking of the here and now. I'm thinking that for the past couple of years, we've had the same old, same old. We are not competitive. We are probably losing a whole bunch of people that might want to run for mayor if the salary was increased. There might be people out there that have people and management skills that could help. You want the person at the top to be the leader and to help everyone to make an atmosphere where work is pleasurable and you want to do the right thing. I think without this raise, that's not going to happen. And that is why I'm voting yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Connor. Councilwoman Garthwaite?
So I was curious about this because I had heard that this was going to be coming down the pipeline, and I spoke to all of the different candidates, and they all said that they would absolutely work for $89,000. One said salary isn't even an option for him. So I will be voting no.
Chairman, I'm sorry.
You gotta remember, this is for the position, not the individual. It's for the position. And the city of West Haven's been the lowest paid mayor's job in this city. And all the surrounding cities are over $110,000 plus. Milford, New Haven, East Haven, even Branford. The very, very small towns, and I'm talking small towns with a population of maybe only 25, 30,000 people, are lower. I could see that. We are in an area where there's a big population, and to stay competitive with the other cities, and I have to agree with Councilwoman O'Connor said, getting quality individual and more people to apply for the job. And that's what I feel. That's the only reason.
Councilman Boris.
I understand that we need competitive, but I believe that the people in West Haven, taxpayers, have been hurt. And the first thing that they need to see is the build of trust. I think that before anybody that's running for mayor should decide to say, I'm running, only for the money, they should say that this is about the taxpayers. The people need to feel that they can trust you so that you can be able to say you earn that money. So my answer, their vote would be no. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Tucker, and then Councilwoman Hamilton.
I agree with Councilwoman O'Connor. I think to get quality candidates and people who are of the caliber and the skill set that we would like to see running for mayor would command a higher salary than an $87,000 salary. And I don't think that anybody's working for free nowadays. Let's be real. I think that we should be competitive with the towns and cities around us, and I think that in good faith, raising the salary to attract that caliber of candidate is the way to go. So I would support this.
Yeah,
Councilwoman Tucker, Councilwoman Hamilton.
and I ditto what you're saying. I ditto, Councilwoman Tucker, Councilman Massaro, and O'Connor. And the only thing I wanna say is, we do a disservice to the people in our city when we don't open up the pool to possibilities. We're never going to change if we don't change. This is a good change, and guess what? It's low. It's still low. So we have to do something different and be better and draw better. So I'm a yes.
One first time around first. Councilman Donovan.
Yeah, I'm not quoting someone from the MAR, but it, basically, they were saying this, in the short term, which I disagree with, you get what you pay for, because I think that was very rude, of a statement on that person's part. But yeah, I feel that it does open up the pool to people that maybe have management skills, and I'm not saying this mayor doesn't, or past mayors haven't either, because I hate talking about the past. Just looking in the future. And people will talk about, well, you're going up to, I don't know, 20,000 total, whatever it is. Well, yes, but we are also cutting somewhere else, so it's not as though we're keeping this and adding another 20, so we are saving a lot everywhere else. I just think it's better for everybody, for the pool, for those who are running. If I was running and you asked me, are you okay with the 89? Of course, I'm gonna say yes. I'm not saying anything else about anybody else. I think this needs to be opened up a little bit more with the pay, so that we are a little bit more comparable. Thank you.
Thank you. First time around, Councilman Johnstone.
Thank you, Chairman. So, everyone in this room knows where I personally stand. I'm a no vote, but I don't disagree with your stance. The problem I have is we are in a financial mess, putting it lightly, and you can raise it, but Marb has stated many times, until you change your culture, it's hard to change everything else behind it. So I agree with every single one of you who want to vote yes, that yes, it is more attractive. However, my argument to that would be, we've scared off so many qualified people. Doesn't matter if they're independent, Republican, Democrat, our culture and our identity the last 2 decades have scared people off, not just for mayor, but I believe for council seats as well. And I'm only 36 years old, going on 37 Tuesday, and I just grew up with the horror stories of culture. So that is my argument. Thank you, Chairman.
You.
Anyone else first time? Councilman Galagnano?
So, nothing changes if nothing changes. I can't make it any simpler than that, for me. And hopefully for the residents understand that. And if you wanna change culture, maybe bring in somebody with a higher quality, better background. and that's where, and it starts with leadership. I'm in the leadership role at my job. I've changed culture in quite a few of my stores. So I know what it's like. Listen, put the money out there, and maybe we do get that culture change that we really, really need in this city, because it is really a culture change that and it's going to take a long time because the culture's been bad for a long time. It just takes a long time, but you need a leader that can do that. And we haven't had one in a long time. So I will support an increase for this position. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Galignano. Anyone else for the first time? Councilwoman Ekberali?
I have to agree with Councilwoman Hamilton. It opens up the possibilities for the future. And if we don't have a raise, then that's not gonna happen. And I do believe that if we do have this raise, it will bring in better qualified people, as Councilman Galignano had stated. And we have to start somewhere, and I think this is the place where we start. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ekberali. Is there anyone for the first time around still? Did everybody get a chance? Okay, second time around, Chairman?
One thing Ron, when I was sitting in this room in the last 6 years, 2 years ago, we were going for a charter revision. And charter revision wanted to hire a city manager. They wanted to pay him $170,000 a year and also have a mayor for $40,000. Add those two together, see how much you got. So right now, we're getting one person for the job at a cheaper price, and maybe we get a better quality in the future. That's the way I feel.
Councilman Boris?
I just have a late comment. I think that every council member here knows that none of us are here for the money. We don't get paid good. But I doubt that anybody here would say that they're not qualified to be counsel for the people. If we let money be the object to become a mayor, I don't think we're gonna get quality. We're gonna get people that are greedy. Okay, we've been through this through so many different mayors. You know, I think there have been great people that ran with great backgrounds, college degrees. That hasn't helped. That hasn't done nothing for West Haven. But I believe that the people that need to run are the people that want to do it from the heart. That people that want to do it because they care, not for the money. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman Garthwaite and Councilwoman Tucker.
So first of all, I just want to echo what Councilman Boris said, also echo what Councilman Johnstone said. And I also have some information to share. It's from ZipRecruiter. As of April 27th, 2023, the average annual pay for a mayor in Connecticut is $73,295.
That's not right.
Also, just so you know, nationwide, this is from ZipRecruiter, the average is $80,064. Branford pays $80,980. And like I said, the average in Connecticut, according to ZipRecruiter, is $73,295. 75th percentile is that $70,753. And in the 90th percentile, it's 168. So where are we? I mean, we aren't exactly, say, Ridgefield. We aren't exactly, Newtown. We're not exactly, well, we're definitely not Greenwich. But I think the pay is too high. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Garthwaite. Councilman Tucker.
I would say this, I do believe that people do expect to get paid for the work that they do. And yes, you do want people that are gonna do it for all the right reasons and, do it, follow their heart and all that, and the voters will decide. They're gonna put forward their platform, and you can decide where you think they stand, and then you can decide to hire them or not hire them as a voter in the community. but I think we need to attract candidates who are qualified. And I'm not saying anything about anybody that's currently in this position or who has been in this position to say that they are not qualified. I'm just saying that a larger applicant pool that has, and especially knowing everything that they know about the city right now, because everything is wide open. We're an open book right now, and everybody can see us, and we need somebody that understands all of that and is still willing to come and serve. And we need to pay them, and pay them fairly, and pay them well, in my humble opinion.
Thank you, Councilwoman Tucker. Councilwoman O'Connor?
I agree with Councilman Tucker. Let's face it, we do the city council position because we love our city. We don't do it for the pay. That's totally different. But we get stopped in the supermarket. We get stopped waiting to pick up our kids. We get asked questions. I get texted 7:15 in the morning because there's a pothole that someone stepped in. We do it because we love our city. But the person at the top needs to get paid. And none of the nominations, and I'm not discrediting anyone, are not set in stone. How do we know there's not some great hidden little gem that all he needed was 20,000 more, he or she needed 20,000 more dollars to decide that they're willing to give up their entire life for 2 years to make West Haven a better place to live? That's it.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Connor. Anyone else for the second time?
Chairman, I'd like to get a roll call vote.
I have
Oh,
a
comment,
comment
sorry.
first. So my thoughts are, I think we're upside down. So I know, the cliche, you want to run, the city like a business. And clearly, we've got work to do. But I don't know anywhere where the leader of the organization gets paid less than all of their direct reports. Right? The leader now, based on our pay structure, is lower paid than any commissioner that reports to that leader, right? Any finance director or corporation counselor, everybody else, their direct report makes significantly more money than the leader of the organization. To me, that's upside down. So I have salary data from CCM, Connecticut Council of Municipalities, for like communities. And even with the raise from 89 to 109, we will still be the lowest community, right? Hamden 120, Milford 120, Meriden 165. So everybody on this list would be higher still, even after we raise the salary. So I'm not looking to get to the 95th percentile or even in the middle. I just want to get in the ball game. And we are not in the ball game at $89,000, where all of the direct reports for the leader makes much more money than they do. So I believe we need to correct that. And as we know, by state charter or state constitution, you cannot give a raise on an off year. You could only give a raise to an elected official on an election year, because you're not giving a raise to the person, you're giving a raise to the office, which will be vacant. So that's why this year has to be a raise, because next year there can't be a raise because there'll be an incumbent in that position. So based on the data of the communities around us, based on our pay structure here in the city, and to be able to lead an organization, I think it's necessary that we raise that amount. Any other discussion? Mr. Bruno?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. So, that's CCM,
Yes, sir.
and all around us, Branford, Milford, are all at, what number do you?
I don't have Branford on this list, but they're not I have communities over 30,000. So, Meriden 165, Stratford 123, Hamden 120, Milford 119 and change, almost 120. There's no one that in our peer group that's less. There's some that are less, but none that are in our peer group, in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Boris?
One last question to you, Mr. Chairman. If we think like that and say, well, every other city's paying the mayor this much, then should we also think like that about every employee in City Hall? And say, well, we're not being competitive enough for every employee in City Hall. If we look at a lot of other cities like the registers and all that, they're not getting paid the same amount. That's gonna bankrupt the city. If we're gonna look like this for one person, we have to look for all. I'm just saying, do I agree that we should have a better pay? Yes, I do. But I'm just saying, if we're gonna look at it one way, then we should be able to say we have to treat everybody fairly and say then everybody should get it. And that is gonna hurt the city. So yes, who wouldn't love to get paid more? But the fact is that we are in a situation where we're not able to do that. So let's keep it the way it is. I think that we do have good candidates. I think that the people will make the decision. And once the people see that they build that trust back on whoever is mayor, he or she, I'm sure that that person is going to do 4 years, right? It's not an election year. So all I'm saying is that, look, I agree, money's important. But it's not the reason to do it just for one person when you can't do it for all. That's all I'm saying. But, and I appreciate you, Mr. Chairman, I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Boris.
Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote. Mr. Chairman, if you do that, please.
Councilman Gary Donovan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor,
Yes.
Councilman Ron Fagliani,
Yes.
Councilwoman.
No.
Councilwoman Sarah Akademi,
Yes.
Councilman Mitch Galliano,
Yes.
Councilwoman Robin Hamilton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kathleen Tucker,
Yes.
Councilman Victor Boris,
No.
Councilman Robert Bruno,
Yes.
Councilman Steve Johnstone,
No.
Councilman myself.
Yes.
No.
Yes has it.
9 yeas, 3 nays, motion carries. Floor is open. Councilwoman Tucker?
I'd like to make a motion to decrease a line item in the Human Resources Department for the social worker and move it to the Health Department. So the motion would be to decrease line item page 88, 150-00010-5100, regular wages, from the Human Resources social worker line item to $70,000 and move it to the Health Department. But I also would like to, if it's possible, split that role between the Health Department and the library. And I can explain the rationale for that, if that makes sense. So, half and half. Should I finish the motion before? Okay. So, to increase line item 153-00010 for regular wages to the Health Department, that's page 95. To put the social worker there in the Health Department, but I want the responsibilities to be split between the library and the Health Department. The rationale being that the elderly services can be provided in the library, and work related to the social determinants of health can be provided through the Health Department. So, if you look at our community health needs assessment, there's a lot of information out there about, you know, where we have opportunities. Our health is impacted in this community, and could benefit from a social worker providing support to the residents in the community. Things that impact your health overall, where you work, live, and play. Things like, you know, your ability, food insecurity, which we talk a lot about, transportation, you know, all the factors that pertain to your ability to be healthy can be supported with the social worker in that role. And my thinking is that they would best be served under the direction of the Health Department, but understanding fully that there's also a need for the elderly to have some support, which is why I think it's important also for the library to potentially weigh in. if this body would support that. If not, then the recommendation would be for them to stay right there under the health department, in the direction of the health department. So I don't know how to make that motion.
I think you did.
Second.
Second.
Oh, all right.
All right, so let me try to capture it. So Councilwoman Tucker, his motion is to remove the $70,000 for the social worker in the human resource budget and transfer that line and that $70,000 to the health department, with the request, strong suggestion that that individual would also service the elderly services and the library.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Should I second it again?
We have a second by
Second.
Councilwoman Hamilton and Councilwoman O'Connor. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilman Donovan?
And Councilwoman Tucker, I do appreciate you moving it there. Do you know if anybody has approached you in the health department to assist them along, to maybe help guide the management portion of it?
Yeah, so I've had a conversation with Maureen Willis, the health department director, who, definitely understands the needs in the community. She actually presented here once, I think it was last year, and talked about the social determinants of health and the need for education in the community and all that. I think last year she passed out a handout that talked about that. It was the wheel, colorful wheel, that talked about the social determinants of health. She's fully aware of the need, to make sure that those things are addressed. And so my recommendation is to provide some support. They don't currently have a social worker in the health department, and there's one nurse there. The others are sanitarians. So just thinking about the work that's ahead, that is kind of based upon the needs for this, our community health needs assessment kind of outlines. It's open to the public, like you can read this thing and you can see where we are and where we have gaps, where we have needs. We could benefit from having a strategic plan, which she and I talked about. And she's, fully aware and on board with the development of a strategic plan that should include the work around social determinants of health. But I think it would be a great support for the health department to have a social worker who could actually provide support to that department.
Listen, this is your wheelhouse. If you tell me this is where you want it,
Yeah.
I'm 100% for it, because you know definitely what you're talking about, so thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Donovan. Councilman Verona?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Councilman Tucker, so you're gonna split it 3, I got that, so just help me along, 2?
My recommendation would be and I don't know how to do this, I don't know if to leave the entire budget underneath the health department and split the responsibilities between the two, or split the salary between the two departments. That's for discussion.
think
I
you
don't know
can
what
do
the
that.
best bet would be to do.
Yeah, please.
First of all, it's a very
Not your
thoughtful
fault.
motion, I think. It's very nice and makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't split the salary. I wouldn't split the management of this person. That would just get confusing. But if this person is working for the city and city residents use the library, I'm sure that it could be managed in such a way that support is provided to those who would go to the library for help.
I mean,
Yeah.
my proposal would be to put this person under the health department, but they could be stationed at some point in time in the library. If there's a need there, they can go anywhere
Like office hours?
with right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that the funding you're asking that we would put in the health department budget. And then, like I said, hopefully with some input from us to the health director, we could let our opinions be known where you think it may be valuable to have that social worker split up their time.
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion?
I wasn't done yet, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Bruno.
Sorry.
That's all right, sir. I'll do better next time, Mr.
I'd
Bruno.
appreciate that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. So, that was one of my questions, so, for the residents to understand it, if we did the social worker through the health department, we would have what we're gonna call office hours, so that residents would know where to find a social worker?
I mean, that would be the recommendation that we can make to the director of the health department, but that's for them to operationalize it. I don't think we get to operationalize it that way, but I think that's a strong suggestion.
Thank you. No, Mr. Chairman.
You all set? Mr. President? Councilwoman Hamilton.
Yes, I think this is a refreshing, good idea. Our city has been lacking that, as, Councilwoman O'Connor made very strong suggestions about that. So I welcome your idea, Councilwoman Tucker. I think it's great.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hamilton. Is there any further discussion on the motion? I don't see any. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we increase the investment income line on page 9 from $653,000, adding $605,000 to a total investment income of $1,258,000. I'd also like to increase line item 1800998154230, general liability losses on page 99, from $350,000, adding $150,000 to a total of $500,000. Also adding to workers' compensation line 1810998354190, increase that by $205,000 from $1,703,943 to $1,908,943, and also increasing the advanced funding OPEB trust 1900999056175 by $250,000. Was $250,000, now $500,000. That's the motion.
Second.
Second by Councilman Galignano. Is there any discussion on the motion? Mr., do you have discussion? Councilman Garthwaite?
Can you just,
Yeah, it's this, do you have this piece of paper here? It's this piece of paper.
oh, okay.
So Mr. Taylor said that he's comfortable with us adding $605,000 in additional revenue on that line item, and then we're just taking that revenue and putting it to funds that are typically underfunded or in deficit, like some of these internal service funds.
So our increase is 653, correct?
The 653 is what's budgeted for now,
Okay,
and we're at, and the 605 is the
Change.
increase, right?
so that will impact our taxes.
No, it'll be a wash.
Okay,
It'll be the revenue's coming in, and then we're putting, the motion is to put that revenue to work in those three line items.
okay. Okay,
Mr. Taylor, will you just come to the podium and acknowledge that you recommend that?
Yes, that is my recommendation. I prepared that piece of
Okay.
paper. It doesn't,
Okay,
I'm not sure, yeah, it does have my name on it. And I passed it around.
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
You write that up?
Sorry, what do you say?
Did you write it up?
Oh, yeah, could you write that up, Mr. Chairman? It's right here. It's right on the piece of paper. Floor's open. Councilman Johnstone?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to make a motion found on page 78 under vehicle maintenance, line item 1440407253210 under automotive fuel and fluids. The motion is to decrease that line item by 130,000, leaving 400,000, which is 20,000 above the projected expenses.
second,
Okay, so it's 530,000, you're looking to reduce it to
130.
130.
Reduce it by 130 to leave it
Gotcha.
at, yep.
Okay. Leave it at 400,000. or put it to 400,000.
Correct.
It's on page 78, that's Councilman Johnstone's motion under, automobile fuel and fluids. Mayor's recommended 530, the request is to reduce it by 130 to 400,000. Councilwoman Garthwaite is the seconder. Is there any discussion? Councilman Johnston?
Thank you. I know we know fuel has gone up a little bit, it's gone down, then it's gone up. However, with the 20,000, you're still increasing it of what the projected is, and this is my opinion. I do believe we need to start being conscious about how we operate things, because every dollar adds up after a while, and I know it's concerned many people over time. So, it's not knocking on anybody, it's just making awareness that if we can save money where we can save money, this is one of them, and 130,000 can go a long way somewhere else. Thank you, Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Johnstone. Any other discussion? Councilman Bruno?
Sorry, Mr. Johnstone. But the cost of oils, transmission oils, engine oils, and activities, they're through the roof right now. They just continue to go up per barrel. We buy them by, 55-gallon barrels. I mean, the cost is going up. I don't see it coming down. I would just be concerned about the fleets that are being serviced, as far as, the oils and stuff that we're using and the cost of the fuels. I mean, diesel fuel, is at an all-time high. I don't know which all of the public works trucks run on. So I would just like to get a better grip on what it actual costs. If Mr. Taylor can help us with that, or, Councilman Galliano is pretty familiar with the cost of oil on how it's going up. And I'm just concerned that we don't short that particular line item. So nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Bruno. Councilman Galignano?
I have to agree with you. Oil it's unstable at best, right? I mean, you can go, in 2 weeks, gas went up 20 cents. And I would go on the preface that we didn't use our trucks over the winter because it didn't snow. So we didn't have any diesel fuel that we had to really buy, so I'm kind of concerning about taking that down 130,000, if that's what, oil's out of control. One day it could be $1, next day it's $4. Diesel is pretty high at this point, so yeah, I have a little concern about that. Like I said, we didn't even use our trucks over the winter. They were probably parked most of the time, diesel-wise anyway. So maybe that's why we're gonna come in under budget. Would that be?
We're not going under budget, it's projecting at budget.
I'm sorry, I was reading it wrong. My apologies. Well, we did jump it up 150,000 for next year. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Galignano. Councilman Boris?
Uh,
And then Councilman Garcia.
Mr. Taylor, is that the reason why you bumping it up? Because last year we only had one snowstorm, really? Like, are you?
It's the recommendation of the,
Department.
yeah, of the department, that all these petroleum-based products are going up, and they don't see an end in sight. We have been adding vehicles to the fleet, which makes for more oil changes and more everything, obviously. It was their recommendation that, this is the right amount to budget for the future. That jived what I'm seeing personally around as I, price things for myself. I don't know that percentage increased, and I don't know if the councilmen who have direct experience with these kind of things with fleets, they might have an idea what kind of percentages they think they're going to have. And that would probably be very valuable to me information, but I don't have that. Just trying to think if there's anything else. No, we did get a new fire truck, we got a new vac truck, there are also, other things that would be in the ARPA, stuff that we've been buying, we will have to maintain it, so number of units is up, cost is up. Don't know if this is exactly the right percentage, but, that was the recommendation.
So with the newer vehicles, you would say that, you would put newer gas, like, instead of a low, I don't know how that works, but,
Well,
Diesel.
still diesel,
they're
okay.
all diesel.
All right.
But, Mr. Bruno might be able to speak to it, but, I do know when I've bought newer cars, it seems like the stuff you have to put in it costs more.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Boris. Chairman?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry, no, I actually sat as Councilwoman Garthwaite next.
So for myself, I have seen a lot of city vehicles out doing personal things, tootling around on weekends, trucks idling. I feel like we just need to make people a little bit more, like you said, Councilman Johnstone, accountable for the gas that they're using for personal time and for personal errands. I mean, for instance, I was sitting in the M&T parking lot at the bank, and I watched two city vehicles, Public Works vehicles, come through. They went through the Dunkin' Donuts line. They were in the Dunkin' Donuts line for like 10-15 minutes. Then we had another city vehicle sitting for at least 25 minutes in the line at the M&T Bank. To me, that's kind of infuriating that my tax dollars and everybody else's tax dollars are paying for people to do personal errands with city vehicles. So I am very much in favor of cutting at least this much, because I feel like we really do need to start buckling down and making sure that people are accountable for the things that they're using on city dime. That's it.
Thank you, Councilman Garthwaite. Councilwoman Ekberali?
My only concern is with the cost of fuel going up. I just wanted to know where you got that number from for the decrease. Like, how did you get to that number?
So pretty much, it's based on the if I may, it's based on the projection, knowing what we spent before, and giving a little bit extra where that's where that 20,000 is. But at the end of the day, this is I don't want to call it a maneuver, but I guess I'll use that. Listen, at the end of the day, we have to find money places. We have to trim fat. People are tired of paying for services that they're not getting the output for. And it's no personal attack on anybody, but accountability has to start somewhere. That is why I use the term conscious. We have to be conscious of our actions, just like we are as a city council person. We have to be conscious that we are public figures. We are recognized in the public, and if you run a stop sign, people know it's you. If you cut someone in line, they know it's you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Chairman Massaro, and then Councilman Donovan.
I agree what you're saying to a certain extent, Councilman Johnstone, and a little bit from Councilman Garthwaite, but you don't cut the gas because the person is still gonna stand in the bank, doesn't care what we do in cutting the gasoline down, cause he's still gonna be at the bank idling there, because it's up to the management to watch these people, not by cutting gasoline. So if you wanna start someplace, you gotta start with management. Management's gotta have more control than their employees. By cutting gasoline down, then we're gonna end up, I guarantee it's gonna go up again, knowing what's going on in Washington, and the way the interest rate is going up again. I still don't trust what's going on in this country. That by playing around with the gasoline, I wouldn't touch it right now, to be honest with you.
Councilman Donovan?
Yes, Councilman Johnstone, I would agree with you 100%. If we had a bunch of snowstorms already, if we had a bunch of ice storms and those trucks were being used and the projection expense was at 380 and they were requesting that much more, but I feel because of that and because there was no snowstorms, that's why that I feel that's projection is low. I think it would be much higher if we did have snowstorm, ice storms. I don't know if the waste, what we, to get rid of those fluids, if that's included in there, which I don't think it is. I think that would probably be separate, but the cost on that as well. But, yeah, I'd hate to cut that. I mean, I agree with everybody. It just, I'd hate to cut it, and then next year we're going to get this snowstorm, and we're gonna be, we're gonna be stuck. They're gonna have to, they can't come to us in the middle of a snowstorm saying, hey, we're at our budget. We need money if the snowstorm is right now. We're not gonna have a special meeting just to have snowstorm, okay gasoline or something, or fuel. So, again, unfortunately, I'd have to be a no on that. Thank you.
Councilman Bruno?
Thank you.
And then Councilwoman Hamilton.
I just want us to say that Bob Orfis, who's in charge of vehicle maintenance, he works really hard up there and gets every penny he could out of everything. And he does an outstanding job. And if that's what he's requesting, he's projecting that the cost of the oils are gonna be going up, as I do believe that he's correct on that. I do believe what Councilwoman Garthwaite, I agree, and it would start with GPSs in the trucks. It would start somewhere, but in my opinion, it's not gonna start under vehicle maintenance by removing oils and fuels. I agree with you, but not where you're gonna get it from, so I would be a no on that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hamilton.
Yeah, I would have to say it is a management problem, and I don't know how that equates with, taking away fuel. I'm not quite sure where that is. Now, if we were told that all of our new fleets of cars would be electric, I would say, let's look at that line item, and maybe we can deduct some, but right now I'm not comfortable in messing with that number.
Thank you, Councilman Hamilton. Mr. Taylor?
The conversation reminded me of another piece of information that might be valuable.
Andrew, could you hear Mr. Taylor?
Let me get up here. So the conversation reminded me of some information that might be valuable. I don't know if it'll change anybody's decision or not, but we've been notified by East River Energy that it would be a really good time for us to lock in our prices. So what that tells me is it's not going to be lower than it is now. So that we will be able to lock in our diesel. We're moving towards that. However, that will not help us on the cost of oil, transmission fluid, and the rest.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on the motion, Councilman Galagnano?
So East River is gonna give us a locked-in price. Is that what you're saying?
They like to do that for our diesel fuel, yeah.
For on diesel fuel?
We have not been locked in up till now, but we can keep in touch with them.
I am just shocked that somebody would lock diesel fuel in this day and age. You can't even get an oil company to lock in fuel for your house. You used to be able to do that, they don't do it no more. What they do now is give you a contract for your oil burn instead. Say, here, we'll give it off. I'm just shocked that East River would do that. I would do it. Absolutely, because you don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring.
To some extent, they buy the future, and
Yeah, and listen, they change it right at the racks, right? I mean, the price changes right at the racks when it's not supposed to, but that's another story. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, sorry. I was just shocked that they would give a locked
they
price.
haven't locked it yet, but they've suggested that would be a good time to do it.
I'd do it.
Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? The motion is to remove
I'm sorry.
$130,000 from auto fluids and fuel to, so,
It's not late yet, unfortunately.
okay, we'll try that. Maybe we'll recalibrate, right? All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. All opposed? Okay, motion fails. Mr. Taylor, I'm gonna take you a few minutes more again, look, if you could go up to the podium, so. So I know we had a discussion, one of these last few regular city council meetings about back of the napkin projections on the FY '23 surplus. What are your most current thoughts on that?
Approximately 2.4 million in surplus.
And then the current fund balance that we have, I believe you said last week, last night, they all blur together, was north of 13 million.
That's what I would project for the end of '23. The only solid number I have, because it's been audited, is the FY '21 ending fund balance of 5.67.
Right, the other ones are still unaudited.
Unaudited, I think we're going to add to fund balance, another $2.7 million in '22, and then the 2.4 this year.
So where does that take us unaudited, about 16 million
12 and a half.
through at the end of 23?
Yes.
12 and a
So
half.
the 5 that we started with, and then 2 a year,
All right. So,
3 a year.
so I say the MARB 5-year plan because this is the 5-year plan that you prepared for the MARB and you all agreed on it, so.
But
so-
we did, point of fact, we did not agree on it. They chose to not vote. They never would approve it, for us to bring back, so it's pointless to bring back to you and waste your time with it, in my opinion.
So we don't have a 5-year plan that we're working off of, that we all agree, here's where we are and where we need to get to?
I do. But no, nobody else has one. The last 5-year plan was the previous years.
Right.
I believe that what we presented was a good 5-year plan. I think it touched on, a lot of the strategies and pain points. This new 5-year plan will include funding the internal service funds, because that's something we've learned about. We're gonna try to do more with OPEB. I have a more of a split feeling about surpluses and what we might do with them, to prepare for the future, especially in those areas. While we do need to grow our general fund, we might want to take a strategy of growing that a little slower so that we grow all of our funds.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was headed, so they didn't vote down the plan, they just chose not to take action on the plan.
Correct.
So, the plan, on page 6 of the plan, talks about I'm specifically interested in the ending fund balance through the years, right? And so FY '23, the ending balance, 9.2 million for the fund balance. FY '24, 9.9, just short of $10 million.
I think you're looking at that prior 5-year
I'm looking at
plan.
the July 2022 plan that you sent me.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if it's not in the budget book.
Oh, okay, that's why I can't find it. Okay.
So it's the actual 5-year plan that's on that you sent, right?
That I sent out, which,
Right, remember,
which
'cause-
when you requested was the one that would have been last year's
The
5-year.
one on the website is the 2021 plan, so
Right.
this is the 2022 plan, so
I'm a slight disadvantage, I don't have that in
So
front of
trust
me,
me,
but
I'm
that's
telling
okay.
you the right
Yeah.
numbers,
Yeah.
okay? So the fund balance for FY '23 budget for plan is $9.2 million, and for '24 forecast is 9.975, almost $10 million. So my only point to this is that we're overperforming the plan by quite a bit.
Absolutely.
So, as you mentioned, we need to, I think we need to pump the brakes and begin to look at those internal service funds, right? We already started to look at them now with some of the transfers that we just made, but backing off the gas on the tax increases. So again, this particular year, we're supposed to, the mayor's recommended is 0.97, right? So that's maybe if you're appraised at 200 or 250,000, it's like $20 a month, I think, is the increase on a household that's assessed for that. It's not a lot, but it's a lot as it adds up with everything else that's going on. So there's some concern there for me. My bigger concern is the forecast for next year, right? ARPA funds fall off, the Board of Ed needs more money to sustain everything that they got through COVID. And I think the forecast is like $1.5 million or something, or maybe north of that, maybe closer to 2. And I'm just one person, but I really think that we need to evaluate that strategy. It's nice to have a good, healthy fund balance in the bank, but not at the expense of the taxpayers, if we don't have to. What we need, what we want, we don't have to have. So I really think we need, and I think you said it before I even said it, that we need to evaluate the strategy, pump the brakes a little bit. Let's look at our internal service funds, and maybe we're pretty healthy on the fund balance, and let's maybe back down on the proposed, tax increase for next year. And I know that we're not talking about next year's budget specifically, but I think strategically, I wanted to put that on the record.
Yeah, I think you would welcome, based on what you're saying, a transfer request to increase the budget this year for the internal service funds, thereby using up some of this surplus, put a little less in the general fund.
Yeah, and I think that, so these are the things I think are healthy discussions, right? I'll use my analogy of the three-legged stool, right? So I think these are healthy discussions to have jointly.
Sure.
Right, with the city and the council and the MARB, right? I think those are productive discussions, right? Because they're strategic, they're important to everybody, and everybody understands where everybody's coming from, right? Just like the budget that we're doing now. So, but my thought also is that in this budget, there's $700,000 just to kick up the general fund even more, when it's already outperforming the plan. It's about 32% over that 100%. So why are we funding $700,000 into the fund balance adjustment when we've already met plan?
The only reason that number is there is it ties to the 5-year plan that you've got in front of you. It is a number that, generally the MARB looks for a surplus, and they want that. I have no investment in that number personally. It's just a regurgitation of the plan from the prior year that was expected to increase. And to your point, yeah, we've done really well in the last few years, and we believe that we'll come through audit and remain doing very well in the last few years of growing the fund balance. I wouldn't argue at all if you wanted to affect that number. I mean, you've gone ahead and just tonight added $600,000 of funding to internal service funds into OPEB. That, I think that's a very mature thing to do for the city, a very a prudent thing to do for the city. If you want to pump the brakes next year, I mean, that's certainly what we could present. I mean, there's certainly something you could pass, and we could pass it forward to the MARB with that explanation.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'd like to have, I understand about, if the plan talks about shoring up certain accounts that are underfunded, that makes sense to me. So we're addressing that. But again, just to add money to a fund for the sake of adding money over what our benchmark is, to me, it's a hard sell, right? So to me, that would mean that we're overtaxing the community. If we have a plan and we're exceeding the plan by several $1 million, but we're still asking for more, to me, I don't think that's the right thing to do.
What I would propose as an option for when I go and I speak to somebody else other than this body about it is I gave you a list of open positions, $2 million. We could commit that if we don't fill those open positions, which we all don't think we will on July 1, that would be a heck of a win for the city, but I don't think it'll happen. We could commit to letting that fall to the fund balance to the effect that we do not fill our open positions. And, you know, it could be $500,000, it could be $1 million if we only get a half a year's work out of all those open positions on the average. But I think that would be a strategy. We could say, hey, we've thought about it, and we don't think that it's prudent to do that to the taxpayers, but we do believe there may be some savings, and we'll commit to putting that in the fund balance this year.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about strategy and future and vision and strategic plans tonight, and the budget, I don't like the budget process, because all we focus on is one fiscal year at a time.
Right.
And I understand that, so this is the tool that kind of prodded us to think of at least 5 years out. So now I think it's a valuable tool, but I think, again, it's a planning tool. So now we're a year out before next year's budget cycle, and we're saying to ourselves, okay, our planning tool is telling us that, you know, we're doing well, we're on plan, we're overachieving plan. Let's watch the results for the next 6 to 9 months, and let's affect some change in that plan for next year, right? So again, I think, you know, there's a couple of schools of thought, right? We need to shore up our operations, fill in our gaps, take care of our internal service funds, you know, make sure we're crisp in our policies and procedures and cash management in City Hall. Yet, once we do that, we also need to be mindful that I've never seen a tax decrease here, as long as I could remember. You know, I mean, reevaluation's a cheater, right? You lower the mill rate because your assessment went up, so that doesn't count in my book. So at some point, we have to say, oh geez, we didn't raise taxes this year, that's a win, or we only raised it by a mill, that's a win. That's the wrong mindset, right? We should be good enough to be able to churn out an efficient operation where we could lower our mill rate.
That would be amazing.
So, anyway, I just rattled on a whole lot, but I really think that's important to think about, as not so much we conclude this budget, but we begin to set the framework for next year's budget.
Oh, yeah. And it's wonderful, and I think we should have those strategies, you know, a strategy to me, the emergency and the ISFs, the internal service funds, it's an amazing lack of money in those funds to me. It just boggled my mind that we're that far behind. We're trying to hit 15% in 15% of expenses in the general fund, and we're at about 7%. But we have like 0.1% sitting in workers' comp. And it's like, well, that's scary.
But it's also important we hear the bad all the time, and I've been here a long time, not just in this position, been here all my life, I've been involved in the fringes of local government, and I have to say that, yes, you know, we sometimes we focus on the skies falling, and we have issues, right? And we have a lot that we have to work through, but I remember a decade or so ago, we couldn't even think about an internal service fund, potentially, you know, funding money to, because we were in deficit 10, 15, almost $20 million, right? We were on the verge of bankruptcy how many times, right? So to be able to look at these numbers, right, and listen, it takes a village, right? So looking at these numbers and how we've grown, you know, the budget, how we've shored up the fund balance, and we need to continue to do that, and now being able to actually think about internal service fund is like, you know, that's great. In my mind, that's terrific.
Yeah, feels decadent.
It's getting late, and everybody's probably rolling their eyes at me. So
to your point, and also, you know, there were some motions made over the last couple of days. They didn't pass, but they were for cuts in the budget. Who knows? Maybe we will come in at some percentage of those cuts, and we could commit to putting those in certain places as we move through the year.
yeah, and I think you know, as you take this budget on the road, if you will, I think it's important to call out that, you know, the methodology for the council was we recognize there's a dozen or so open positions, and now there's another, you know, 9 or whatever that are new positions, and there's only a certain amount of bandwidth, right, in the personnel department. So there's going to be a lag time. So we wanted to address the lag time, save a little money, but recognizing that we doubled the contingency fund. So if you need immediate action to hit on something that's in an audit or maybe in that Whittlesey report or whatever, that you have the agility to do that. Because if you have to wait for a new hire, by the time you advertise it, but you post it and you interview and you talk to the union, and the horizon is way too long. So now with that money, you could just plug in a consultant pretty quickly. So I think that's the mindset here. So I want people to think, oh, geez, you cut this, you cut that. Listen, you're never gonna hire those positions on day one, right? So that's why there's money in the unallocated contingency.
So I would love to, if, you know, you've got a lot of great strategic ideas, I'm sure everybody does. If you have time to put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, my email's public, so, would really welcome that. And it would help me to represent you to the best of my ability when I am sitting in Hartford.
Thank you.
And this is really helping me a lot, this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Floor is open. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that, Engineering Department, page 75. Professional Services, line item 1410001052480. Increased by $29,000. It was originally $1,000, total of $30,000, and that should be for surveying services. Second by Councilwoman Hamilton and Councilman Donovan. Discussion. My discussion is that when the engineer was here, I've been here several years, as many of you, and the engineer comes here every year and says that I'm trying to fill an assistant engineer's position and I can't do it, and no one will take the job for $70,000, right? There's an example, right, of raising the salary to attract the talent. So that job was raised from 70 to 110,000. And it's extremely difficult to get a credentialed engineer that's also a credentialed surveyor. So I thought it made sense to just parse that out. We really need an assistant engineer. And then we could contract out the surveying services that we need. So that's my discussion on that particular motion. Is there any discussion? Councilman Bruno?
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify that line item number again, please.
It should be under the engineering department for professional services,
Okay, 52,480.
52,480,
And
yes.
we're increasing that by,
29,000, so the total would be 30,000. With the stipulation is that's for surveying services. Council, any other discussion? Councilwoman Hamilton?
Is this not, this would be outsourced,
Yes,
right? Okay.
yes. Councilman Boris?
So this position has a qualified position. I mean, you have to have some type of college degree or something to actually be able to do this, right? It's classified as something professional.
You can need a credential.
Okay. I was just saying that because as a mayor, you don't. This you do. That's the difference I see.
I think it'd be helpful if you had a credential. I
Sure.
understand.
I
I
would
understand what
hope-
you're saying, yeah.
Right, I would hope that,
Yeah, I
we
get
can
it.
change that, but right now we don't. So that's why, when you said that, I kinda saw the difference, but
Yeah,
I agree. Thank you.
I get it, yeah. Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilwoman Tucker.
So would the title of this position that's here change from assistant engineer / surveyor, just be assistant engineer?
Assistant engineer,
And
that's
that's it.
right.
Okay.
Yep. Any other discussion? Oh, Councilwoman Garthwaite?
Do we need to change the job description if you're removing that specific part of the assistant
I
engineer?
think that would be our recommendation, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Sure.
and thank you. Good, I appreciate Councilwoman Tucker and Councilwoman Garthwaite. So, I know, Chairman, you're writing this down. So the motion is to increase the line item to $30,000, and change the title in the detail from assistant engineer surveyor to just assistant engineer, and have the job description reflect that. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Floor is open. Councilman Johnstone?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to make a motion found on page 47. Under Planning and Development, line item 119000010510000. It's to decrease the Commissioner of Planning and Development by 52,277 and have that start on January 1st, 2024.
Didn't we do that last night?
Did we?
Yeah.
Is it on my sheet?
I'm looking. Yes,
Unless I
but it
accidentally
was,
switched up a different one.
it was 43,564 was what it was decreased by last night.
My apologies then, Chairman. I'm removing that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Johnson.
What's that?
Must have been in
It must have been one of the last ones. That's okay. What? Sleep.
Floor is open. For a second time, floor is open. For a third and final time, floor is open. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I mean, recess.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Hamilton, I didn't see you.
I wanna discuss something with Mr. Taylor. Oh, you were gonna say something
I have a
anyways?
question.
Yes.
We just discussed potentially changing the fund balance number, that $700,000, but there was no motion, so I just wanted.
That's correct. There was no motion.
I guess what my discussion would be with you is that we talked about surplus, and it was a long discussion. It was almost like two accountants talking to two accountants. So if I missed something, please forgive me. Is there any surplus where we can take some of the bonding and pay for it with surplus money? And when I look at that, I'm looking at like maybe, I guess there's an issue with the rink. There's a couple of line items with the Bennett rink. I'm looking at, the fleet of vehicles that we wanna buy. Is there any room for, decreasing the bonding?
I would not recommend it today, I wouldn't recommend it today, and here's why. Looking at our cash flow, which includes bonding and the inflow of that money, and then the projected outflows, while we have over $60 million in the bank right now, we're paying it out. We have a very definite cadence of money coming in and money going out. My latest projection puts us down below 10 million late in 2026. If we were to not bond, that would send the projection lower by every dollar that I took out of bonding. So, I wouldn't recommend doing that today. I mean, my cash flow projection gets better every day with actual data. If I see something changing, and trust me, I've been thinking about that, and that's why I know that, because I was looking at it to see, are we gonna run out of cash? I can with conviction say we're not gonna run out of cash next year,
Okay.
and it's gonna take a long time into 2025, but that assumes a certain amount of revenues coming in, investment income, taxes, state, everything. So,
Okay.
well, it's a good idea.
All right,
I just don't think we're ready for it.
thank you.
So stay there, Mr. Taylor. You've intrigued me. You've raised the question, so I wanna make sure that we fully understand your commentary. So, the 700,000 that's sitting there, on the fund balance adjustment line. I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but is your recommendation to do something else with that money instead of have it sit on the fund balance adjustment line?
No.
No?
No, I mean,
Okay.
that could be a stance that we take, and as we discussed, our strategy in not having it there is you know, we believe there is a very good potential that we will not fill every position on our open positions on July first. That's why we've taken some of the moves that we have to reduce the amount of dollars that are open positions, because we're looking at it realistically. And so instead of budgeting more to put into the fund balance, we've decided that we will commit to that, you know, reduction in cost, putting that in the fund balance at the end of the year.
So you don't recommend any further action?
Well, I would not argue against a motion to take that out of our budget. So that would be a further action on your part.
And thereby reducing the overall expenses by 700,000?
Correct. I think I have enough contingency, and I think we have enough play in open positions to still deliver us something of a surplus. You know, to your point earlier, is $2 million really a good way to run things? A $2 million surplus, is that really what we want to charge people? Feels weird, but you know.
Well,
Yeah. I will say, I will face some pushback on that, but if that's the will of this council, and we have a strategy around it, those are the kinds of things that people listen to.
well, I mean, I think the strategy around it is exactly what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes, right?
Correct.
And that's why we, you know, I think we're raising the question, because when is enough, right? We don't, you know, we want to get what we need to in order to meet our strategic needs, and that's going to make sure that we fund appropriately and not overtax the community. And I still, like I said, I was willing to defer to next year, because I think next year's a bigger chunk. But if we have an opportunity to relax, you know, a little bit on this year, I'm game for that.
Yeah,
But,
and
you know,
yeah, some of the pushback will be, why don't you spread out your increases over, you know, instead of having these rocket increases in levels, and but, you know, that's up to these people to
Yeah.
decide what, you know, what they want to present.
okay. Councilman Bruno?
Steve, so, Councilwoman Robin, thank you, Robin, it's getting very tired. Capital non-reoccurring account, right? That account's balanced?
Well, I do have some research to do there. I think I had a conversation with the mayor today. She's concerned that projects over the last 10 years, you know, there may be some projects that still need to happen. I think that there's potential for there to be extra money there, but I can't really unequivocally say, you know, that it's all there. I was
No, I
comfortable
understand,
last
but when
night
you
with the
say-
300.
When you say all there, I got notes stating that there was money there.
Oh, I'm sorry, the money's there. The question is it earmarked for something already?
You recall the money that you think is there?
$1.8 million.
And to Councilwoman Hamilton, you're saying that you wouldn't want to use any of that to pay down on,
If you'd allow me to reconcile that account, look into it, make sure that the people who were promised certain capital funds for their project, that project's complete or abandoned, or, you know, what have you, there's not a plan for all those funds. When I look at that account, it's unallocated. To me, that means it's available. Unfortunately, the accounting over the last several years did not necessarily identify what projects this city had committed to doing in previous years.
Thank
My
you.
gut feel is there's something there. It's not $13 million because there's only 1.8.
Yeah, and the nice thing about that, David, is we're not approving the capital plan tonight. We have until June to approve the capital plan, so if you could do, or have someone do that homework between now and then
Yes.
we can make a determination on what we wanna see, on that list removed.
Yeah, so I can give you a little bit of an update, and it's speaking to this to this whole subject. And on the grants department, just today, our consultant agreed to do more hours with us. So we'll get some more time out of her, more guidance out of her. And I did put in the request to Robert Half yesterday. They have not gotten back to me for assistance there, a grant accountant to help us with the ARPA things, which would allow Gisella, our grant accountant on payroll, to do more work that she needs to do to get monies in. So these are positive steps that would also impact potentially our need to bond. Because those are some of the income flows that I don't count on when I look at my cash flow. It's a little bit, it's hard to time them.
Right. Good, Counsel? Okay. Yeah, I mean, because I think the idea, again, the idea, and we, from watching, right, over the last several years, you know, the MARB has a concern when you take one-time revenue and plug it into an operating budget, right? But they have, it's a proven strategy, an accepted strategy when you use this one-time revenue to fund projects.
Yes.
One-time revenue, one-time projects, right?
Correct.
Is there any other discussion, Councilwoman Ectorelli?
I just have a quick question. Did you say you already reconciled that non-recurring account?
No.
So you're gonna have the time to reconcile that?
That's a theoretical answer. I hope so. I do have somebody that I can. I do have, not carte blanche, but I do have the ability to bring temporary help in. This is something that I could give to somebody as temporary help. There's also something that I could. I have a temporary help who's got a CFO background right now, and it's a project that I would probably give to him. He is currently involved in our internal audit process, our bank reconciliation process, and in our external audit process, and they're going to be starting to show up. In fact, they're going to be here on May 11th to start some of their field work. So his time's disappearing too, but he works overtime at straight time. So and he doesn't mind doing it. So we can
Would
do
you
that.
have
So
a-
theoretically, yes, I can get that done.
Okay, do you have a time frame in which we can have that?
After my failure to produce on my commitment with the grants project, I'm a little bit reticent because it's going to involve reaching out to everyone who's ever had a project on that list for the last several years to see where they are. And the well I don't knows, I'm expecting a number of those. So I don't even know what those projects are today as I stand here. I do have an inkling that a lot of them are in IT. And that position is a bit hybrid right now. And we, as you know, we're down in staff there as well. We talked about that before. Chances are I can get it done in a month, but I would love to tell you I could do it. You know, I'm taking tomorrow off, by the way, but I'd love to tell you I could get it done next week.
Yeah.
But
That
I
would
think
be
that would be
great,
silly.
It's as soon as possible.
Yeah,
would be really
yeah,
important.
it's on my list.
Thank you.
I also have to go before the MARB and present this budget, stuff like that.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ectorelli. Anything else for the Finance Committee? Councilwoman O'Connor.
I just had one last comment. Mr. Taylor, thank you so much for your help and guidance throughout this whole process. This is my 4th year on the council, and I feel like for the first time, all of our questions have been answered in a timely fashion. And I know I couldn't have done this without you. Thank you.
That's very nice, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, the time is 9:22. We will convene the special meeting at 9:30. Is there a motion to adjourn the Finance Committee?
Motion.
This is a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.